Good morning. I'm Ron Payne. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm honored to serve on the pastoral team. You recognize one of our readers today, David John Cron. You don't recognize the other, perhaps. It is Javon Collins, who is the artistic director of the performing arts at the King Arts Center complex, and we welcome them both. We acknowledge that this land, these hills, the woods, the rivers, is the ancestral land of the Adena, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, the Miami, the Seneca, and the Cayuga people. We acknowledge the injustice of the theft of this land and their continuing presence despite attempts at annihilation of the indigenous people of this place. We pledge ourselves to justice and to repair, both with the land and its people. Would you take a moment with me of silence together to consider how we value and respect indigenous people and their culture in this place we all call home. And we thank our rain garden for the gift of the common winterberry in our chancel arrangement. As you're able, willing, would you all stand and join in singing together, "We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle," number 212 in your gray hymnal. You'll see the words on the screen as well.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. Sisters, brothers, all. Here we seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Sisters, brothers, all. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. Sisters, brothers, all. Every round a generation. Every round a generation. Every round a generation, sisters, brothers, all. On and on the circles moving, on and on the circles moving, on and on the circles moving, sisters, brothers, all.
Good morning. I'm Julie Pinsino, and I'm a member of the First UU Board of Trustees. Here at First UU, we strive to be welcoming to all and we hope that you feel like this is a place that you belong. Thank you for joining us here today. Please scan the QR code on the screen to let us know that you are here. Get a digital version of our order of service, submit your joy or sorrow, and to find our donation page. If you are visiting with us this morning, welcome. We have a first-time visitor gift for you at the greeters table if you haven't already picked up your copy of our welcome book. And now it's time to hear from our auction team.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, we've started bidding on the good stuff. And have you all looked at the great items available to bid on in the auction yet? If not, go to the website. You can log in and then bid on anything that you'd like. Keep in mind that unless it's a fixed price, you need to bid up $1 or $2 from whatever's been bid already. You'll even get a notification email if you get outbid later. So if you need to begin your holiday shopping, look at our auction catalog. Need some artwork? There are tons of framed pictures to choose from. In fact, there are 200 items to look at. And I just figured this out a couple days ago because I find it difficult. I would go to the grid view and find that the pictures were very tiny. It's really hard to see the artwork. But if you go to the list view and you put your cursor over the picture, it jumps up and gets larger. So if you really want to check out some of the items and get a better look at them, just go to the list view for that. So bidding on physical items lasts until 11:59 p.m. on Friday, October 14th. Note that there were 2 items that were pulled from the physical list item to be in the live auction. So this is the Live Suede bike and the mobile 50-inch kitchen island cart. So if you try to bid on those now, you won't be able to. They're going to be in the live auction. From October 15th until midnight, October 21st, we will bid on food, frolic, and fun. Several of those items are also pulled to be in the live auction as well. There is a complete live auction list at the auction table for you to see. So don't forget, we're celebrating Getting Back Together for Our Future on October 22nd with a fall festival and live auction from 4 to 9 p.m. here at First UU. Tickets to the Fall Festival and live auction can be purchased at the auction table in Beach Hall after the services. They cost $12 for individuals, $20 for couples, and $30 for families. Children under 5 years of age are free, and you can pay by check, credit card, or cash. Your ticket includes admission to all the activities, the live auction, movie, food, and entertainment. In order to make our first annual Fall Festival and live auction a success, we also need some volunteers. We need all kinds. There are so many ways to help out. Can you bake and package cookies or brownies for the bake sale? Can you work on a computer? Would you like to help with food prep? Are you interested in being on a cleaning up crew? Do you have a clock that we can borrow for decoration? Stop by the auction table to let us know how you would like to help before or after the service. Thank you.
Boys and girls, if you would like to go out with Amber, she's back there, she's waving her hands. If you'd like to go out with her right now, and then you'll come back in a moment to help us with the chalice lighting, we'll all wait and hear the prelude.
And now, it's time for the children to bring in the light. Okay. Thank you guys for coming today. Our chalice lighting words were written by the Dalai Lama. He's a great teacher. He says, pain and pleasure come from our past actions. So it is easy to define karma, that's a word, in one short sentence. Act well, and things go well. Act wrongly, things go wrongly. So we light this candle to help show us the way to be kind. Thanks, Tree.
Thank you, Tree, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. Good morning. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. Families, please remember to dress for the weather and plan for some playground time each week. We are also still seeking classroom assistants and hiring paid toddler sitters. You can email me at amber@firstucolumbus.org for more information. Today's story is called The Bravest Woman in America, written by Marissa Moss and illustrated by Andrea Uren. Ida loved the sea. She loved it when it was calm and coppery in the sunlight. She loved it when it was wild with froth, like a herd of stampeding horses. She loved the crash of the waves, the screech of gulls wailing overhead, the bite of salt in her nose as she breathed in the ocean air. She loved it all. So when her father got a job as a lighthouse keeper, she felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Twice a day, Pa had to row out to check on the light perched on Lime Rock, the small, rocky island poking out of Newport Harbor. Young Ida begged to go with him. Pa laughed and handed her the oars. You pull your weight and you can come. The oars were heavy and awkward, but Ida was stubborn. She pushed and pulled until the boat lurched forward. It was slow. It was hard. Her shoulders ached and her hands blistered. But when the front of the boat bumped up against the small beach of Lime Rock, Ida felt a bubble of triumph lift her up. She'd made it. From that day on, Ida rowed with Pa as often as she could. He told her stories about storms and drowning sailors, sinking boats, and rescues. He taught her how to check on the light, how to fill it with oil, trim the wick, and clean the lens. Most of all, he taught her to row. Over the years, Ida grew strong and lean. Now, when she gripped the oars, the boat glided smoothly through the water. If the wind was wild, she knew how to lean into it. If the waves were high, she knew how to stay calm and let the sea break over her. The oars were part of her now, and her strokes were sure and steady. When Ida turned 15, she got the best birthday present she could have hoped for. The Lighthouse Board decided that Lime Rock needed a keeper to live there at all times. There had been too many shipwrecks and too many lost boats. A full-time keeper would make the harbor safer. So, a house was built with a tower holding the light. It was a real official lighthouse, and Ida and her family would be the first to live there. Ida loved watching the sea for any sign of trouble. She loved polishing the lighthouse lens so the light would shine bright. She loved rowing her 2 younger brothers and her sister to school and back home every day. "You're a real lighthouse keeper now," her sister told her. "I think you're the bravest girl in America," her youngest brother said. "And you're definitely the best rower ever," her other brother boasted. Ida shook her head. "Not yet, but someday I will be." That day came sooner than Ida wanted. Pa got sick. He grew weaker every day until he was no longer able to care for the lighthouse. While Pa sat at the window watching the sea, a blanket wrapped around him, Ida and her mother kept the light full and strong, beaming over the water. Ida was ready for the job. Like her father, she kept watch over the harbor, scanning the waves for any ship in trouble. Ida had never seen her father rescue anyone, but he had told her how to haul people over the stern so they didn't tip her boat. He had described how to lift a man out of the water, how to warm him with blankets afterwards so the chill didn't kill him. And Ida felt ready for anything. One winter evening, Ida spotted a small boat bobbing wildly in the harbor, tipping back and forth as a boy shinnied up the mast. The sun was setting, and Ida's first thought was that the boy was trying to get a better view of where to head. Then she heard laughter carried on the wind. 3 other boys on the boat waved their arms at each other, whooping loudly. It was just a game, a bit of fun, but to Ida, it looked dangerous. She watched as the boat pitched over, throwing all 4 boys into the sea. Then she didn't watch anymore. She ran to her own small boat and rowed out. It was darker now, the waves wilder, but she could hear yelling, and through the mist she could make out the upturned keel of the boat. The boys tried to cling to its slippery sides, but there was nothing to grip. Their legs churned the water in panic. Their clothes weighed them down in the slapping waves, and the icy cold water made them gasp for breath. Ida reached the first boy and grabbed him just as her father had told her. She pulled him into the boat, then quickly rowed around to the next boy who was thrashing and spitting water. She hauled him in too, and then the next one, and then the next. The boys' faces were white with cold, their lips blue. One passed out, lying limp on the bottom of the boat. Ida didn't think. She rowed, harder and faster than she ever had. The waves crashed overhead, tilting the boat along a wall of green and gray. Ida kept on rowing, frantic to get them all to safety. "I can do it," she told herself. "I have to do it." When she pulled the boat onto the beach at Lime Rock, she threw down the oars and looked up, exhausted, into her mother's proud face. "Well done, Ida. Let's get these boys into the house," said Mrs. Lewis. "They need to get warm and dried." Once the boys had recovered and the seas had calmed, Ida rowed them back to town. Then she set her boat back toward the lighthouse. Each stroke of her oars brought her closer to home, closer to where she belonged. When she got there, her father was waiting for her. He didn't say anything, just hugged her hard. Then he handed her his captain's hat. Ida was in charge of the lighthouse now, and she knew it. The end. Today's book was based on the true story of Ida Lewis, who is named the bravest woman in America by the American Cross of Honor Society and the first woman to receive a Congressional Life-Saving Medal in 1881. The tale of her courage and real-life heroism is a tribute to bravery everywhere. During today's service, I invite you to reflect on the moments where courage shows up in your life, whether large or small. I now invite the congregation to stand as you are willing and able and form a sheltering arc of love as we sing our young people back to their families and out to class.
The sum of all known reverence I add up in you, whoever you are. The men who govern are there for you. It is not you who are here for them. Laws, courts, the forming of states, the charters of cities, the going and coming of commerce and mail, all are for you. If you were not breathing and walking here, where would they all be? The most renowned poems would be ashes. Orations and plays would be vacuums. Sculpture and monuments and anything inscribed anywhere are tallied in you. All architecture is what you do to it when you look upon it. All music is what awakes from you when you are reminded by the instruments. The sun and stars that float in the open air, the apple-shaped earth and we upon it, the endless pride and outstretching of man, unspeakable joys and sorrows, the wonder everyone sees in everyone else he sees, and the wonder that fill each minute of time forever. It is for you, whoever you are. It is no farther from you than your hearing and sight are from you. It is hinted by nearest, commonest, readiest. Old institutions, these arts, libraries, collections, and the practice handed along in manufactures, will we rate them so high? Will we rate our cash and business high? I have no objection. I rate them as high as the highest. Then a child born of a woman and a man, I rate beyond all rate. You consider Bibles and religions divine. I do not say they are not divine. I say they have all grown out of you and may grow out of you still. It is not they who give the life. It is you who give the life.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Javon Collins. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am the Performing Arts Director at the Martin Luther King Jr. Performing and Cultural Arts Complex here in Columbus, Ohio. I will be reading For My People by Margaret Walker. For my people everywhere, singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties, and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years, and the now years, and the maybe years, washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, plowing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sand of Alabama, backyards playing, baptizing, and preaching, and doctor, and jail, and soldier, and school, and mama, and cooking, and playhouse, and concert, and store, and hair, and Miss Chumby and company. For the cramped, bewildered years, we went to school to learn, to know the reasons why, and the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when, in memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were Black and poor and small and different, and nobody cared, and nobody wondered, and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things, to be man and woman, to laugh, to dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people thronging 47th Street in Chicago, and Lenox Avenue in New York, and Rampart Street in New Orleans, lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people filling the cabarets and taverns, and other people's pockets needing bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people, walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omnisciently and laugh. For my people, blundering and groping and floundering in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and deceived and devoured by money-hungry, glory-craving leeches, preyed on by facile forces of state and fad and novelty, by false prophet and holy believer. For my people, standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all the people, all the faces, all the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and strength of final clenching be thee, pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written, let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Morning, I'm Ron Payne still. Once upon a time, I was a United Methodist pastor. My only connection to Methodism now is the rich heritage it afforded me and my pension and my health insurance, which I consider back pay. My church left me when the congregation I was serving as a retiree inherited $337,000, but refused to take 10%, a tithe, and build a habitat house. I decided I had tried for nearly 50 years to teach people to follow Jesus, but evidently had lost the touch in the Methodist Church, so I left Methodism. It wasn't long before Jane and I wandered into Episcopalianism for a short time, but eventually found our way here to UUism. By way of being an ACLU Speakers Bureau speaker at a tiny UU gathering in Reynoldsburg. There was a tall guy there, also a guest speaker that day, named Jeff, who invited us here. And that means you can blame him for me being in your pulpit. And Sue Farnlocker, who recruits me from time to time. Theme this month is courage. I just mentioned Jane. She is courageous, sitting right there. Well, we've been married for 60 years, holding hands since high school, so it doesn't matter what Stephen Crane's protagonist thought in The Red Badge of Courage. Courage is not always bloody. Courage need not be evidenced by a wound. Now, I've said before, standing here, that I don't know how to write a topical sermon. I thought I'd try to get some hints from the calendar. I discovered that today, the 9th of October, is the 282nd day of the Gregorian calendar. On this day, Mission Space was opened in Disney World. The National Guard was called in to quell protests in Chicago over the Chicago 8, and the siege of Antwerp during World War II came to an end. Famous October birthdays include John Lennon and Bella Hadid. Well, that search wasn't very helpful. Today is Sukkot. In the Jewish calendar, the Feast of Booths, or tabernacles, or shelters. So once again, I turn to the shelter I always take in sermon preparation, the Bible. The lectionary calendar of most Protestants calls this the 18th Sunday after Pentecost. Roman Catholics call this the 20th week in ordinary time. In that Protestant calendar, I found a reading from chapter 29 of the prophet Jeremiah, and I'll read that in a moment. But first, why do I, a reasonably well-educated person, keep returning to the Bible for insight? Well, I was in a class that Amanda Hayes taught way back when she was an intern here, and one day in the class, I nearly caused apoplexy among the classmates when I said I thought the Bible was true. Some laughed, some gasped, and what I meant was that the narratives, the stories, the legends, the myths that fill the Bible provide us a mirror in which, if we will but look, can see a reflection of ourselves, our context, our situation, our predicament. Now, one of the reasons scriptures of any religion have been held in high regard for centuries is that they mirror human life experiences. So, a look into the predicament at Jeremiah identifies it. Now, there's a prelude that's got lots of Hebrew names, and I'll not read them. This is the letter that he sent. This is what the Lord God Almighty, God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and settle down, plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters, and find wives for your sons and daughters, and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there, do not decrease. And also seek the peace and the prosperity of the city to which I have put you in exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you will prosper. This is what the Lord says. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Now, in one of the congregations I served, one of the ladies said to me, Ron, I've really liked your Sunday school class, but I'm afraid to return. I'm afraid you'll soon tell me that there is no Easter bunny. It was in that congregation that I first learned to say, you're going to have to love me now, as a prelude to my saying something that might be confronting. So if what I say in the next few moments makes you uneasy, you're going to have to love me now. I won't describe everything that happened in the exile of the Hebrew people. The northern kingdom had been exiled in 721, utterly destroyed by the Assyrians. In 586, the southern kingdom, Judah, was exiled into Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. It was a mess. Part of the people went to Babylon, part stayed. The leaders, the poets, really, the craftsmen went to Babylon. Everybody else, the Amharet, stayed. There were some who prospered because Nebuchadnezzar gave more land to some people. But for the most part, it was infinite despair. Now, the salient feature of the exile in Babylon was that the Jews were settled in a single place by Nebuchadnezzar. And so it would seem that they prospered their religion even in a strange place. Now, some of them did adopt the Chaldean religion. The names they gave their children were Chaldean for the most part. But they called themselves Gola, exiles, Bene Gola, children of exiles. And within this crucible of despair, hopelessness, they forged a new national identity and a new religion. The exile was to them unexplainable. Hebrew history was built on the understanding that the promise of Yahweh to protect the Hebrews and use them for his purpose in human history. Their defeat and the loss of the land was just unbelievable. This crisis, a form of cognitive dissonance, when your views of reality and reality itself don't match each other. That cognitive dissonance can precipitate in a most profound despair or the most profound reworking of a worldview. Now, I have no bias against Roman Catholics. No matter what their calendar calls it, this is nothing ordinary, or there is nothing ordinary about our time. Ours is the predicament Jeremiah addressed: exile. We're not aliens, but we're alienated. Ours is a state of cognitive dissonance. We view ourselves as among the most progressive of countries, but a kind of fascism threatens. We see ourselves as a peaceful people, but our national budget spends billions preparing for or funding war. We sing of our blue boat home, but our world is hostile. We are in exile. We're a post-pandemic people. We're disrupted as a congregation. Our new reality has us hanging our harps on the willows. We can't sing contentment in a strange land, as the psalmist said. But just as courage need not wear a red badge, and exile isn't only a geographical reality. Like the psalmist says in Psalms 137, we may hang our harps on the willows. It's just too hard for us to sing in this strange place. One hardly knows how to behave, what to do, what once seemed appropriate, comforting. In this alien place we find ourselves. Hurricanes shatter lives. Hordes of people are at our borders, desperate for economic survival. Hundreds of thousands across the ocean are starving. This isn't where we thought we'd be today. As a country, we're experiencing a kind of unknown territory, a frightening unknown, with divisiveness unparalleled. The institutions of law and government and political parties we once identified with proudly are crumbling with having divisiveness as a calling card. We're defending freedom, democracy, by facing down a real threat. Or we're a part of the threat. There is no neutral ground. It's a battle. We must win. COVID-19 and its mutants have us experiencing being aliens in our own land, or feeling like this isn't the place where we were born into, or have grown accustomed to inhabiting. We're cautioned about shaking hands. We wear masks, not to disguise ourselves, but as a protection of others from us and us from others. We walk into Kroger or Costco, see others in masks, and ask ourselves if we're out of step by entering unmasked. We look around, shake our heads when we're the only ones masked. And although we've never paid a whole lot of attention to doorknobs before, now we're grateful for that little piece of metal that's fixed to the bottom of doors in public restrooms. We are separated from family, from acquaintances. We postpone gatherings taken for granted. People we're accustomed to seeing regularly have disappeared. Places we visited regularly now have us longing to return. Jane and I haven't seen a couple who live across the street for us for months, except for rare appearances in their car or yard, and then they wear masks. A post-pandemic world is what an exile looks and feels like. As a faith community, we are disoriented, discouraged. Newcomers come in, and they're not sure what ails First Church, but there's a sense that something isn't right. As old-timers, we know things are different, and we ache for a return to normalcy. Even our newsletters and announcement acknowledge that this is a time of transition. We feel separated from our leadership. A leader is separated from her people. Amidst turmoil, we experience separation from each other. As a congregation, we're trying to till ground that we've never plowed before. There's not even a manual for the board to follow. They're in total unfamiliarity as well. Now, we may wish we were someplace else, but we're right here, right now. Our resources haven't changed. Well, okay, inflation's a problem, but still, here's what we have. We have to build houses and live in them with what we have. We have the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in the congregation, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregation and society, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the independent web of all existence, and there's even an eighth principle of the UU experience, an eighth principle on the horizon that pledges our overcoming racism and all oppressions. We're to plant gardens and eat what they produce, Jeremiah says. Volunteer to serve on Sunday mornings with coffee and breakfast. Get behind the new auction fall festival. Participate in a class. Spend time at coffee hour. Listen with real satisfaction and pride to our choirs. Like a garden, our congregation's programs take effort. Jeremiah says, take wives, have sons and daughters for your sons and daughters. Families count here. Their future is our future. Amber can find a place for you in any number of ways in religious exploration. And yes, it's an exploration for teachers and helpers and leaders too. When was the last time you invited an acquaintance, neighbors, others in your family, others with your values to visit here at First UU? Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you. Jeremiah says, God says, for its welfare is your welfare. Ask Elaine. The reforestation of Columbus won't happen by itself. Ask Amanda. There's a place for you in cooperating with other congregations in BREAD, B-R-E-A-D, building, responsibility, equality, and dignity. And if you don't vote, you're part of the problem, not a part of the solution. Voter turnout allows politicians to ignore low participation groups and to court high participation groups, the well-to-do ideologues. The Board of Election needs poll workers. I'm 82, and I'm going to be a PEO, a precinct election official on November 8th. Vote, volunteer. You're going to have to love me now. This is not our first rodeo. Liberty ships were all that President Roosevelt had to offer when I was born. A majority knew that that war was not our war. We courageously stepped to the front and spearheaded the defeat of Nazism, though some of us only served by saving tinfoil and bacon grease, but we were a part of the courage. A Soviet leader pounded his shoe on the table, threatening us from an island off our Florida coast. But a courageous Kennedy steered us through nuclear near disaster, while we watched TV to breathe in relief as the missile-bearing ships turned back from Cuba. As a country, we are acquainted with courage. Social Security is only 3 years older than I am. Before that, senior health was a crapshoot. In my lifetime, penicillin became a common infection fighter. Smallpox has been eradicated worldwide. The scourge of polio has been vaccinated into rarity. Our public courage has been victorious over viruses. As a congregation, over the years, budgets and building plans have demanded hard work. The tide of membership has ebbed and flowed. The societal context has shifted, requiring new priorities and novel programs. Ministers have come and gone, some missed, some quickly forgotten with a shudder. Mark Bellatini arrived. A pastor, a prophet, a poet arrived. A future, a hope was reborn. The word courage has its roots in the Romance languages for heart. At its center, this congregation has heart. Courage doesn't always have a recognizable face. It's not always bloody. It could be the face we see in a mirror. The face that goes about doing what it has grown accustomed to doing, not just doing well, but doing good with a renewed sense of purpose and intention. Courage can be reflected in the face that recognizes that indeed we do have a future and a hope right here, right now. Roll up your sleeves and participate in its unfolding. So may it be, amen. Without my manuscript.
And the same here. Good morning. My name is Reverend Kathleen, and I am your Assistant Minister of Pastoral Care. Our centering words this morning are entitled In Honor by Amanda Schuber. In honor of the risk takers, those that hold the vision with clarity and charge forward with optimism, even in the face of others' doubts, you are our lamplighters and our guides. May we never forget the courage it takes to lead the way forward. In honor of the cautious skeptics, those that gather the information needed to navigate the tumultuous waters of change. You are the map makers and the preparers of the stores. May we appreciate your attention to the details that keep us on our course. In honor of doubters, those that may fear the changing tides of a turbulent world, you are our anchors and remind us of where we have been and where we are as a community now. May we relish your commitment to our history and your passion for who we have become. In honor of the dreamers, those that imagine what we can be to and in this world. You are the wind that blows the sails of change, pushing us ever forward. May we revel always in your whimsy and hope that dares us never to stop becoming. May the work we do together strengthen our community and our world. May we heed the call to always hold the vision of the free church ever in our sight and to work towards justice.
Apologize for that. My name is Sue Ann Farnlocker. I've been a member here for 50 years. And one announcement that I take responsibility for not being read is you can sign people up to register to vote for one more day. And if you're interested in doing that, please stop and sign up in Beach Hall after the service at the Justice Action Ministry table. Okay. Research shows giving willingly to benefit others raises the happy hormone dopamine and at the same time lowers the stress hormone cortisol. So it is indeed better to give than receive. Also, a tradition that was started maybe 15 years ago at this church is Share the Plate, where a half of all money raised here this morning in the offering baskets will go to benefit a charity that we choose. So I'm trying to find, and today it's the Native American, I can't find it here. Indian Center of Central Ohio. Thank you. And it is, do we have a video, I think? Yes. Thank you, Andy. Oh, it's out of order. Imagine that. It's devoted to preserving and restoring balance in the lives of Native Americans through traditional, cultural, educational, family, community, and wellness-driven values and initiatives. Let's watch the video to learn more about this mission, or their mission. Another way you can support NAICCO is by coming out for their native cuisine food truck on Indigenous Peoples Days tomorrow, the 10th, from 3 to 7 at 67 East Ennis Avenue. You can also click on the QR code. You can go to their our website.
Serve as a blanket statement during a time when cultural sensitivity has come to the forefront more so than it ever has before. How about we put some real action behind these words to do something that really helps make up for the past? For us here at the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, or NACO, we are doing just that. We have chosen to take a bold step forward, one that intentionally puts action behind such words.
I believe that it's very important to return our Native American Indian people to the land. Our Indian people have always known that Mother Nature is a very powerful being next to our Creator. Nature is the foundation from which all life derives. NACO has this one opportunity to teach and protect our natural resources, tribal protocols, sovereignty, ceremonies, and healing ways that have always been in place all over Indian country, but not successfully preserved or practiced in urban settings.
Rather than just speaking to it, we are pursuing a tangible goal, a vision, a dream, one that entails us attaining our own piece of land here in Ohio that we, as Native people, can connect with and call home. This campaign is formally known as Land Back NACO. Our goal as NACO is to acquire a minimum of 20 acres, thus to not only have a space in Ohio to call ours, but more so to have a place where we can preserve and restore our cultural ways and build and strengthen our Native community.
We as Native American people were raised to respect and honor the sacredness of nature from the time of birth and goes back for many generations. It has everything we need to survive: medicines, food, air, and water. It provides all the essential elements to hunt, fish, gather our foods. These things we are losing as a people, but trying to bring back and preserve our most precious commodity where it is lacking and at a time when it matters most. Please join us in NACO's efforts to return the Native American people to a land that is not relegated by others, but cared for by its rightful stewards of Ohio.
To join and follow our Land Back NACO campaign and journey, visit our social media sites and agency website.
You can also support us by visiting NACO Cuisine, our newly launched Native American street food trailer here in Central Ohio.
Very nice. So, use the QR code on the screen, text it, forget the number, or go to our website, and the offering will now gratefully be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. For the caring meditation this morning, I adapt the words of Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are. Bring us your joy, bring us your pain, bring us your beauty, bring us your fears. Even if you have broken your vow 100 times, come, yet again, come. This morning, we lift up the many, many, many people struggling in this world today, including the continuing conflict in the Ukraine, the horrific mass shootings in Thailand, the women in Iran protesting for freedom, the ongoing sin of racism, and the ongoing pain brought about by Hurricane Ian. May all the world's beings find breathing space to touch into what brings hope. And we hold up today hope for a better Columbus with the work of this week's YWCA annual event, Activists and Agitators, Confronting Our Past, Constructing Our Future. This event will focus on what can be done to repair the broken housing system in the city to make housing equitable for all. This worthy goal evokes many of our UU principles, as Ron mentioned this morning, and especially the principle which may become our 8th principle, which calls us to journey towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressors in ourselves and our institutions. Today, we sit surrounded by these many connections, both visible and invisible, that remind us every day that we are not alone. May peace be with us and with all beings that share this earth. And now I invite our pastoral listeners, Pat Snyder and Sylvia Howe, to share this week's caring cards and the joys and sorrows submitted this morning.
I'm going to go over here. The sun is blasting right through there. I'm Sylvia Howe. I'm a retired UU minister and a member of this congregation, a pastoral listener, and a member of the Pastoral Team Council. I lift up our sorrows. We send our deep care and concern to Reverend Kelly. Reverend Kelly's father, Ron, had a massive heart attack on Monday. After staying in the hospital for a few days, he's back home recovering. Reverend Kelly asks for prayers for his health in speedy recovery. We send our sympathy to Linda S., whose brother-in-law, Lee, suffered a massive heart attack and died just yesterday. He was married to Linda's sister, Mary. We send healing thoughts to Bob P., who fell Monday and broke his right tibia and fibula. He'll go to rehab facility after surgery. We hold Bob and his wife, Susan, in our thoughts and prayers. Our joys this morning are many. Congratulations to Meredith Farmer, who celebrated her 96th birthday yesterday. She welcomes cards. I visited her last week, and she is doing well. Michelle M. reports with joy that after 14 days in COVID isolation, she is finally free. She celebrated by returning here last Sunday, and there she is. She sang in the choir this morning. And finally, we send our deep, caring thoughts to Carol W., who is back in the James for follow-up testing, but she came home last night. Cards with special stamps are especially welcome. We send caring thoughts to Kristen H. Her colleague, Malik, just lost his 4-year-old daughter, Amani, to kidney cancer. Malik and his family were incredibly proud of Amani's bravery and love for the world amid all this trouble. He has asked that we hold his family and all those others affected by kidney cancer in our thoughts and prayers. As a reminder, please stop by the social justice table to pick up a flyer for information on celebrating with the 2 first UUers who are receiving Living Faith Awards this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. at First Community Church on Dublin Road. Tickets are still available for purchase for the breakfast and the awards ceremony. Contact Dick Dawson to purchase tickets. And Kathleen, I believe, has 1 ticket to give away for anyone who could not otherwise go. Let me know today if you are interested. Please come and celebrate with all the winners this year. And Paul and I will be going to celebrate with our 2 recipients. We encourage you to visit the caring table in Beach Hall after the service to sign cards, whether or not you know the people. This long-time tradition of signing cards in person is very important. It's an outreach to members and friends. Even if there are no cards to sign, and that is not the case today, you can stop and say hello to our volunteers. There were no joys or sorrows that came in this morning via text, email. Yes, I'm going to read those. But via text, email, or the handwritten ones. But we do have some joys. Happy birthday to Cameron, a member of our first UU youth group. We wish you a year full of adventure and much love. And congratulations to Erin Riley Sanders for her participation in the highly anticipated grand opening of the Hocking Hills State Park Lounge and Conference Center. Erin's architectural design has incorporated the new lodge beautifully into its surroundings, creating a warm and inviting and immersive experience for everyone who visits. I encourage you to do that. May we hold these joys and sorrows and all those yet unspoken gently in our hearts. As I ring our temple bell, I invite you into a moment of shared silence to reflect, imagine, pray, or simply breathe. We will ring the bell a second time to continue our service. Please join with us in singing our closing hymn, Come, Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
Come, thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come, thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun.
Seated. If you are online, I bring you to bring your chalice closer to extinguish our flame together. If you are here in person after the postlude, you're welcome to come to Beach Hall for coffee and conversation. I invite you to join me in speaking our vision statement as we extinguish this flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Our flame is extinguished, but the light lives on in our hearts and lives.